Coaches, welcome to another episode of the Football Scoop Online Clinic. Today we've got Bret Schneiber, the offensive coordinator at Salle High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's going to be talking to us about his four-play RPO package that they use there. So, Coach, the floor is yours, brother.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and share the screen here, and we'll be able to get rolling. First off, Doug, I want to thank you for having me on. I think probably Football Scoop is probably the one, like most coaches, is the one website that I look at multiple times a day. I appreciate what you guys do and keeping the keeping the coaching industry and fraternity kind of together and everything. So I love what you guys are doing here with all these different online clinics in this time. This time I'm a teacher just like a lot of these other guys, so we got a lot of spare time on our hands. So I'll go ahead and get started here. I coach at LaSalle High School in Cincinnati. We're a Division II school, which basically means we're in the second largest division. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success here. We've won 4 of the last 6 state championships, and I've been there 3 years now. Our current head coach is Pat McLaughlin. He came in 2017, so he arrived. I came in with him along with a couple other guys right after we had come off 3 straight state championships. So it's we've had a lot of success, but the target's always on our back. So as far as our offense goes, and you kind of look at what our offense is, when we came in that first year in 2017, Pat had his own system. LaSalle had their system from the previous the previous staff or 2. They had a lot of success with it. I was coaching at a smaller school at Marymount High School out on the east side of Cincinnati. LaSalle's located on the west side. So I had my system. So we kind of meshed it all together, and it's taken on a life of its own. But I'll try to go through some of the stuff that we do, and I think we have a really concise RPO system. We got a 4-play package that was really good for us last year. So as we get looking at this here, see if I can get this thing to play. Okay. So there's my contact information. Feel free to if you guys have any questions and people want to want the presentation, I have no problem sharing it with anybody. There's my cell number. Don't hesitate to text me. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm not a real exotic Twitter follower. Retweet a lot of stuff that I just think is good, and there's my email. So if you need to get in contact with me, go ahead. But as far as our offense goes, we're pretty much a traditional kind of a no huddle, what we call a power spread offense. We're looking for advantages, numbers advantages inside the box, outside the box, out in space. You look at kind of our personnel, what we use. We use 10, 11, 12. The stuff you're going to see today is mostly out of 10 personnel, but we put the tight end out in space. So we've been lucky to have some very athletic tight ends. In 17, our tight end was a senior, and then he's playing for the University of Cincinnati now. And last 2 years, we had a guy that wasn't real big, and he was our long snapper. He was one of those kind of guys, but he just did everything really well for us. So we use tempo. We don't use it all the time. A lot of formations, sometimes with an attached tight end, sometimes without. I think probably the best analogy of what we do is if you think of Clemson's offense. We look similar to what Clemson runs, just with their formations, having an inline tight end, having a tight end who's kind of that H-back in the backfield. When you look at our offense, I talked a little bit about the history of it. We came together in 2017. We made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs. We had a really, really good defense. We were holding people to very few points. So, it was kind of the old, we were really good in special teams. We had a great kicker, and we were great on defense. And so we were winning with special teams and defense. We had a little bit of a downfall in 2018. There was multiple reasons for that. Offensive line struggled. We were very, very inexperienced there. We had some uncertainty at quarterback and a lot of different things. So once we got into 2019, you see the big increase there. Going up to, we jumped about 80 yards per game. And part of the reason was what I'm going to talk about today. we decided we need to simplify the run game, and inside zone was going to be what we were going to hang our hat on. Some people run buck sweep, some people run power. For us, we decided we are going to be inside zone. We're going to simplify things, and if we're going to do RPOs, we're going to include inside zone with it. So that's basically where we were coming from, and I think you'll see kind of the proof in the pudding. Part of the reason I think that we had so much success with in the last year with this package is how we go about installing it, and how we go about practicing it. So I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about this. When we made that commitment that you saw in the previous slide, we made that commitment that, this RPO package and inside zone was going to be what we did. In Ohio, we get 10 days in the summer to actively physically coach our kids out on the field. And that basically be in June and July before we get into August 1 and 2-a-days and all that. So we put our installation schedule together. Here's how we go about doing it. The very, very first day on July 20th, our RPO that I highlighted in yellow here, we got 4 main things, and you're going to hear me refer to them a lot, but basic, burst, Louisville, and bingo. They're one-word packages. But when we said that when we're going to install these things on day one, on July 20th, when we get together and install with our kids out on the field and practice, we don't have a whole lot going in. We got one formation, we run inside zone, we throw hitch, and then we throw what we call China, which is just curl flat. We do it out of different formations, but the RPO that goes with it is basic, and that is what we hang our hat on. And then the next day, we install a few more, concepts, but burst is the next one, and so on and so forth. So that's how we go about doing that. So when we get into the details of it here, these 4 RPO concepts, they're very similar, and you'll see the similarities of it, and you'll see how easy I think we teach it for the quarterback. They're similar, but they're out of different formations. Some of you'll see it all. 3x1, 2x2. We go 3x1 into the boundary, and we actually go empty out of a 4x1. We do everything, not everything, but this package for us, it's just a single word. So if we call basic, everybody on the field except for the line, they know where they're lining up. They know what they're doing based upon whether they're into the boundary or to the field. If they're number 2, they're number 3. They know which direction the zone run's going to go. And I said everybody but the O-line. The skill players, they're getting the signal from the sideline. So literally we have one signal for a play called basic. We have one signal for a play called bingo. The O-line, they have to wait for the quarterback. And that's typical for everything that we do. The quarterback always talks to the offensive lineman. Going back to the beginning of what we talked about, we keep it simple for the O-line. We're going to hang our hats on inside zone. And they're going to, on this RPO package that we run, they're going to block mostly inside zone with just a little bit of power. And I'll talk about when we decide to run power. And that was actually, it's one of my favorite concepts that we kind of tag with it, but mostly inside zone. How we go about practicing it. Okay. And this is what I thought really, 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 truly paid off. And it's like anything else. If you invest time into things, you usually get results. And this is a typical practice schedule for us on a Tuesday in September. Okay. You start out, I don't need to go through all this in detail, but stretch and flex. We have a pre-practice with quarterback center exchange. We have a special teams period, another special teams period, and then we start our individual period. Quarterbacks and running backs are working on run tracks. Line is working indie. We do some routes on air, and then we go to a team period. And what you see highlighted here in red, this is a 10-minute period, okay? And we committed to this every single day, and we literally run this 4-play package during this period. And I'll explain how this works. But once we committed to this, we said, if we're going to be great at this, we have to practice this package every single day. And it really paid off. So how do we go about practicing it? Okay. But once we get to this team period here, this 10-minute practice period, and I say every single practice, we mean every single practice, meaning our heavy work days on Tuesday and Wednesday, sometimes on Thursday, but usually a Thursday practice. Everybody knows what a Thursday practice is like. We do a little bit more live stuff Thursday, probably more than most people do. But basically, once we get into this period here, we go, it's a 10-minute period, and we'll take the first 6 minutes in basically running the offense, running the RPO package. It's our ones and our 1As, and they're going against the scouts, okay? So they're going against, whoever those sophomores are. If there's a couple freshmen up with us. We typically have, this year we'll have close to 10 through 12, we'll probably have close to 95 guys. So we got a bunch of guys. So we never have, we don't have a problem putting a scout team out there. But this is what I think is unique for us, and why we got to be so good at it was the ones and the 1As, they're going to run it for 6 minutes. The scouts are going to give us a look. After about 6 minutes, we're going to flip it over. And now those guys who were just playing offense, because we train all of our guys both ways. They may not always play both ways, but they know an offensive and a defensive position, except for a quarterback. He's the one guy on the team that he could play defense. He'd be a heck of a linebacker, strong safety, but he's too valuable for us. So we flip it over, and now those scouts who know offense, they come over. The ones, the 1As, they go over and play defense, and they give us a good look. So the way this period basically works, we have one coach who randomly spots the ball. We usually start at 30, 35, whatever. We just roll the ball out somewhere. Wherever it lands, it lands. Whether we're on a hash, whether we're close to the middle, doesn't matter. I myself, I'm standing behind the quarterback, and I call out a random RPO concept. I'll call out burst. I'll call out Louisville. I'll call out bingo. Whatever it is, it's unscripted, okay? In this 10-minute period, if we're cooking once we get in the middle of the season, we can probably get 18 to 20 reps in. We do it on tempo. Are we going full speed, full contact? Probably not. We're probably going 85, 90%. We're keeping guys off the ground and taking care of each other. But I call out the play. Another coach, he's standing, like the umpire, he's behind the defense. He's putting the defense in a variety of looks that we see that week. He's bringing pressure from different spots. He's moving the corners up and back. He's rolling safeties just to, it's unscripted. Okay. It's just because we never know what the defense is going to give us once we start going tempo in a game. Position coaches, they sub in their guys as we roll along, and it's up to the quarterback to make the correct call to the offensive line. So if he has to call zone to the left, he better call zone to the left. If he has to check a protection to get us into the right protection, and I'll talk about that, he better do that. So I stand right behind him, and we make sure that he's on the right page, and if he makes an incorrect check, then we'll stop it. And I'll just kind of blurt out, nope, and he'll, a lot of times I have him turn around. Why did you decide to do this? Why did you call it this way? And he's the one playing. So if he thinks that he can take it, go ahead and take it. So that's how we do it. Like I said, we can get probably 18 to 20 reps in once we really get cooking in the season. Early on, you're not going to get that many reps. Right? You always think you can get more reps, but you're not going to get that many until everybody's on the same page. Talking about the quarterback, it usually gets to a point, especially late in camp, early in the season. A lot of times I just turn it over to our quarterback. His name's Zach. I said, Zach, you call this period. So wherever the ball ends up, he calls something, and it's just random. So it can literally, once you get going on it, the quarterback can literally take control and be the leader of it. As far as our offense looks, and I put this up here for a couple of different reasons. 15 games. We had 6. So like I said, we were fortunate enough to win a state championship this year. So we played a full 15-game schedule. 10 regular season, 5 in the playoffs. We had 6 games with a running clock. And I put that up there because once we get to a running clock in Ohio in the second half, if you go up 30 points, it goes to a running clock. Our philosophy is let's slow it down. Let's get out of Dodge. Let's keep guys healthy, and let's go. So, we basically pulled the starters. We're going to play football, but we're going to slow things down. So it kind of skews how many plays we're running, and all that. So when you look at our total plays here, 762 total plays, we average 351 yards a game. You want to talk about what we hang our hat on. Of those 762 total plays, we ran the ball 574 times. Now, some of that was because the RPO that we called dictated a run, and then sometimes it was a pass. But we only attempted 13 passes a game. So we were a team that I told you our offensive line got better from the year before. You only throw the ball 13 times, and you can run it right at people in different manner, inside zone, outside zone, a little bit of power, a little bit of jet sweep. We had a pretty good season there. Now, you talk about really looking at and examining our RPOs here, all 4 of them. We called it 95 times out of that 700 and whatever it was, 50 plays. We only called it 12% of the time. Well, once again, you go back and you look at, the running clock. If the game would have been tighter in the second half, that number probably would have gone up. What I'm most proud of, if it's 12% of our total plays and these 95 calls netted 917 yards, we were getting 17% of our total yards of it. And every time that we called one of these plays, we were averaging 9.7 yards. So you go back and you look at it, you say, we should have called it more. Well, yeah, you're probably right. We probably should have called it more. 18% of our touchdowns came on these 95 plays. So let's get into it and look at it here a little bit. The first one that we're going to talk about here is what we call basic, okay? And called it 39 times, 10.5 yards a play. We got 8 touchdowns on it. We were blessed with, like I said, a quarterback who could really read things the right way. He's a tough kid. He's a great kid. He's being recruited by some of the academies right now. So he reads things really well. We also have 2 darn good tailbacks. One of them will be at Northwestern next year, and the other one's only a sophomore. He'll be a junior this upcoming year. So it helps when you have really good players. I'm not going to lie, but you still have to read things right and take advantage of things. So here's what it looks like. And this, guys, this isn't anything new, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, this is one of the oldest, 3x1 RPOs that people have run, okay? But I think what makes ours kind of unique is how we go about teaching it, the progression that we ask the quarterback to go through, and just the simplicity of it, that we're not going to run uphill, and we're not going to try to run something into a bad look. So here's how we go about teaching basic. Automatically, when we call it, basic tells our receivers, okay, that we're 3x1 to the field. So the field in this situation is over here to the right. We've since changed it after I made this diagram. The Y is our tight end. I talked earlier about splitting him out. We're going to have the Y off the ball now for multiple reasons, but it's not. That's just a minor detail here. But basically, here's what's happening. When we call basic, we're going to run inside zone, weak into the boundary. So the quarterback has to automatically, when he gets the signal, he automatically gives the call to the line that we're running zone to the left. So the line, they don't do anything. So the quarterback tells them which way we're going. They hear zone left, they're going to block zone left. Now, here's the way we teach the quarterback. In this box up here that you'll see, and this thing's not going to change much in the rest of the presentation. So number 1, can we take the gift into the boundary for guaranteed yards? And I highlight guaranteed for a reason, because we got into early in the year, we were getting greedy, and I'll show you an example of that. But the gift for us should be either a 5-step hitch or a speed out, okay, speed out into the boundary. So can I take that? So the quarterback looks at it. If he can take it, he's going to go ahead and take it. Now, unlike most RPOs, okay, if he's going to throw this hitch into the boundary, we have our quarterback check to a pass protection to go into quick game protection. So the tailback's always on the right. So whatever side the tailback's on, he's going to tell the line they're going to slide left. And so the tailback then is stepping up, typical slide protection. He's going to check inside out from Mike to the Sam. And there's a reason we do that, because early in the year we weren't doing this, and the quarterback held on to it a little bit too long, and we let this tackle come free, and our quarterback, Zach, got smoked. And when we saw him get hit like that, we said we cannot afford to lose him, because we really didn't have anybody behind him. So we said, okay, let's just clean everything up here. If we're going to throw the hitch, then we're going to check to a quick game. And he just makes a quick call to the line, tailback standing right next to him, and he hears it. Okay, so that's that. What happens if this corner's up here, the jack walked out, and he doesn't like it? So now number 2, do we have a numbers advantage to the field to throw bubble? Do we have 3/2? Do you feel comfortable throwing bubble? If so, take it. Throw the bubble. We don't check to a protection on that one because, the tailback's going to run right down the pipe here. And quarterback's going to step back, missing to throw the bubble. Okay, but what if Sam's out here? They're playing man. It's 3 over 3. We don't like it. Well, now we're going to run zone. So we're going to run inside zone. We're going to read the end man on the line. Typical inside zone. Most people familiar with that. Read the end man on the line. If he closes hard, now the quarterback's going to keep it, and he has to be prepared. He has to be prepared to read what we call the force players. So this Sam backer here who's circled, and you'll see this on the progression of it. If he attacks the quarterback, we're going to throw the bubble out here late. Okay, typical stuff. So go ahead and look at some of the stuff that we ran with it. So here's and you'll see a little bit of everything on it. So quarterback's going through his progression. He looks out here. Okay, we're playing a team from Buffalo, New York. That's a whole other story right there, that road trip. But a receiver up here, he's got a soft corner, and Zach knows right away. See him right here. He looks over. Okay, he's going to check the protection. And he actually looked over, and I think it was we called this from the box. But he walks up and checks the protection. And so in this situation, we take the speed out into the boundary just because he was so far off, and it's an 8-yard gain. Okay. In all reality, as you'll see, you might see later on, if this corner had tightened up, we could have thrown the bubble also. They wanted to load up the box on us, and that's fine. So that's the first one right there. Second one, as we see right here, okay, this is week 2. Now, remember I talked about early in the year, we were not checking protection, and we almost got the quarterback killed a couple times. Well, Zach and our receiver right here, Jake, they were always on the same page for the most part. Zach had a lot of confidence in him, so he's going to take the hitch into the boundary here. So nice, easy 8-yard gain. Still running bubble to the field. Okay, so we're still getting bubble to the field. Now, in this situation, we're running inside zone. So the tailback's running inside zone. The left tackle, he is ripping through here up to the backer. Well, if you look at it, this guy's got a free run at the quarterback. And if you get the ball out on time, that's fine. But what happens if you bobble the snap? What happens if he hesitates or something? We couldn't take the chance of getting Zach killed. So later on in the year, actually the next week, we said, the heck with this, let's check protection. So that's what we ended up doing there. Another example here, just pitch and catch. Okay, again, this is week 2. Like I said, we ran our RPO package, especially basic here. We ran it a bunch in this game. You see what they started doing out here. They started playing 3 over 3, but they were still giving us the hitch into the boundary. Tailback is running through like he's getting the ball. And once again, once we saw this, when we saw this cat right here coming off the edge, and he had a free run at the quarterback, we knew we better change it, just because, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot of depth at the quarterback position last year. Okay, now this is week 3. So I believe we had changed to the protection. And I told you that Zach right here at quarterback and Jake, they were always, pretty comfortable with each other. This corner comes up and presses. They actually did this on their own, and it paid off. And we threw a fade into we throw a fade in the corner of the end zone here. We made a heck of an athletic play out there at receiver, and this receiver right here, you talk about an athlete, he'll be kicking for Ohio State next year. So he's multi-talented young man. But we throw a fade. It's not something that we really practiced much. They just kind of did it on their own, and that's great. Touchdown. Everybody's happy. Unfortunately, this is the next week. So the next week we come back to it. Remember I said back in the beginning, I said guaranteed yards. So if we're going to take this thing for guaranteed yards, we better have guaranteed yards. Well, this is the same group of guys on the field. Now Jake's down here. He's on the numbers. Different team, different corner, different technique. Well, the week earlier, they'd gotten greedy, and they threw fade for a touchdown. So they come back this week, and they said, hey, we'll do it again. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work out as well. So they kind of look at each other. They make a side adjustment. Zach decides to throw it. And this guy in the white shirt right here catches the football. The ball landed in the third lane of the track. So for us, that's a 1st and 10 call for us, and we're throwing the ball out and it's landing 3 lanes deep in the track. That's not guaranteed yards. And when you look at this box right here, they've given us a very light 5-man box. We probably could have just handed the daggone thing off, and we probably hit our heads on the goalpost. So we had to have a little back to reality talk with Zach and Jake and say, listen, it worked last week against a corner that gave you that technique. Okay, so now we get into the second phase of it. Probably could look at the hitch up here. Probably could work on taking the hitch if we wanted. Zach doesn't feel comfortable with it, so he decides that we're going to throw bubble. Second phase of it, he sees bubble out there. Now, I pointed out earlier, just a couple clips earlier, where they were playing 3 over 3 out here. This is only play 7 in the game. So play 7, they were still playing a 7-man box, and we decided Zach just takes the bubble, throw it out here. We get a nice block out here on the edge, and it's a 9-yard gain. So we'll take it. Okay, so this is week 6 here. Same thing. Okay, basics to call. Zach goes through his progression, and he goes through this is just practice for him, is all it is. Same thing we do in practice. Hitch, nope, they're pressed up, don't like it. What do our numbers look like? 3 over 2, take it. So here we go, rip it out there. Simon Nicholas catches it, splits him, 12-yard gain. So it's just like I said, it's just a simple progression for Zach to go through. So we go back to it here. Okay, hitch, he's only 4 yards off, doesn't like it. Right here, okay, the safety or the outside backer, I don't know, the backer safety, doesn't matter. He was walked down on him, 3 for 3, doesn't like it. So now, next phase of it is we're going to run zone to the left, read the end man on the line of scrimmage here. So we knew early on, remember I talked about when we were passing the ball that this guy was making a run at the quarterback. So we told Zach, this is right after halftime. We said, hey, you're probably just going to give it when we call basic. Well, sure enough, we give it, and tailback makes a heck of a play. But one of the things I'm most proud of in this play right here is when we go back and we look at this thing, okay, you see our slot receiver up here. If you keep an eye on him and the effort that he gives finishing this play, getting out in front, takes out 1, 2, pinballs the guys, and that's a winning football play for us. So those are the kind of kids that we have. It was just a simple handoff. What most people think of is just a simple give. Well, it was the receiver who kind of sprung him for the touchdown. Okay, now this was in the second round of the playoffs. The team was playing cover 0 on us right here. Okay, we go through it. We don't like the hitch. We love, when we see teams playing cover 0 on this, we love to call this, because what happens is somebody's got to cover the bubble. And so it normally takes any kind of safety run support out of the mix. And so when this safety jumps the bubble here, we end up getting, and we split this thing right down the chute. So that safety, like I said, as soon as we see cover 0, we're going to call basic, and we're going to get to it. And we're lucky enough to have a tailback that can really go. Just another look at it right here against cover 0. Okay. So we see cover 0. He jumps it. Read the end. It's a give. Split it. Touchdown. Like I said, none of this stuff's new. Everybody runs this. A lot of people run this RPO. But, we go through the progression every single time. Hitch. Do we like the hitch? Nope. Do they have 3 for 3? Yep. Don't like it. So now we're going to run. We're going to run it, and we're going to read the end man on the line. Same progression we go through all the time. Zach keeps it this time. We had given it. Zach keeps it. And like I said, he can go a little bit too, and he splits it. But for us, going back through the same process, which is what I really like teaching this to people. Hitch, nope. Bubble, nope. Read the end man, let's play. Zach keeps it, and he's able to take it. Now we get into the last phase of it. So we've thrown hitch, we've thrown bubble. Okay, now we're going to run here. We're going to read the end man on the line, and if we keep it, we may have to read this force player. So this is in the state championship game, and we had run it earlier, and Zach ended up giving it, and I saw from up top that this force player closed late, and I said, be ready to throw it on the run after you read it, and that's exactly what happens here. So he pulls it, throws it on the run, spits it out there. As far as coaching points for that bubble, we tell them you're going to run 3 hard steps on your bubble, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to get into a back pedal and just show your big numbers to the quarterback and just stay flat. He stays right down that 31-yard line, pretty much close to where you're initially aligned. And he's going to be a big target, an easy target for the quarterback on the run. He's going to spit that thing out there for a 16-yard gain. One more look at throwing it on the run here. Same thing. He doesn't like the hitch. He doesn't like the bubble. Pull it, back pedal, get in the end zone. Okay, so here's the second part of it. I know I spent a lot of time on the 3x1, but as far as the teaching goes, it's going to be very similar, so I don't have to spend as much time teaching this one. So as far as bingo here, okay, we called it 22 times. We averaged 11 yards a play. Of those 22 calls, 16 ended up being runs, 6 of them ended up being passes. But when you look at the passes, we were 5 of 6 with only 1 drop. What does this look like? It's all very similar. Okay, the only difference is now we're in 2x2. So the field's to the right. We're in 2x2. We just bring the tight end over. Our gift, whereas before it was a hitch, before we were running hitch, now we're just going to run quick screen right here. Okay, Y is going to block most dangerous. So the quarterback, this is the quarterback's first read. Okay, first read, just like before. The gift, can we take it? If we can take it, take it. So if we can throw the quick screen, take it. If not, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the bubble. Okay, same thing again. So we have a numbers advantage. I told you this box up here doesn't change. So, okay, we don't like it. The stands out too wide. Now we're going to run inside zone, read the end man on the line, be prepared to read the force defender if he closes late. So that's really, I mean, nothing changed here. When we call bingo, we automatically know we're lining up 2x2 and we're going to run zone weak into the boundary. That's, I mean, it's basically the same exact thing. So we take a look at it right here. This is week 7. Okay. We look at it. Okay. We knew that they were bringing a lot of pressure here off the edge. So we wanted to throw the quick screen. We had good numbers for us. So Zach takes it, rips it out there. They bring edge pressure. We get what we need. Throw it out there. And the guy who makes the tackle on this, boom, right there is the inside linebacker who was lined up over our left guard. Okay. This young man right here, I'm not ashamed to say it, is the best high school football player I've ever coached at. He'll be playing tight end at Notre Dame next year. He was a one-man wrecking crew. Michael Mayer is his name, and I'm not ashamed to say that he dominated the game on both sides of the ball. But if you can throw something out to the right, and the guy who's lined up over your left guard makes the tackle, well, at least you gained positive yards on it. You got what you needed. The quarterback went through his progression, and that was what we ended up with. But that young man, you're going to hear his name at some point. Somebody's going to have him on their fantasy football team here in a couple of years. Okay, another look at it once again. Okay, able to take the quick screen into the boundary, rip it out there. Our numbers are good. Block most dangerous, and we get a 13-yard gain on it. Now we actually do it out of empty sometimes too, but the concept doesn't change. Okay, the only difference is instead of telling the line we're going to run inside zone weak, he's going to come up and tell them first off he's going to be in our empty protection. So he's going to give them empty protection, thinking that we're going to get a pass one way or another. But nothing changes. Okay, into the boundary, we get quick screen to the field, we get bubble. If we don't like it, then what Zach would do is he would check the power. And I'll get into that here later on. Numbers aren't good, but into the boundary, but they are good to the field. Throw it out for the bubble, and we're off to the races. He felt like that safety was playing so far back that he couldn't outrun the football. So we just get it out in space, and we end up with a 9-yard gain. Now, go back to our 2-by-2 look. This is the first game of the year, first play of the second half. They come out, and we knew they were going to heat us up. They had started heating us up at the end of the second quarter, so we were anticipating cover 0. Like I said, it was the first play. So they start creeping the safeties down. So we told Zach, hey, we're going to call bingo the first play of the half here. Be prepared to not throw it, and it's probably going to be a run of some point. Like I said, cover 0, we like to call these concepts out of cover 0 because these safeties lose run support when they have to go cover bubbles and screens. And as we hand this thing off, we end up splitting it and we take it to the house. No safety support. Now, are we running it against a heavy box? Yes. And one thing I haven't talked about yet, the last rule for the quarterback, and they finish my sentence every day in practice. I will say, when in doubt, and they say, hand it off. And so right here, there was a 7-man box against cover 0. Probably not the greatest call, but inside zone, just block it up and get what you can get. And Zach said, Coach, I just handed it off. I said, that's fine. Go ahead, hand it off, and we'll see what happens. He hands it off, touchdown. But when you don't have safety support, anything with those outside screens and bubbles like that, and you can effectively split them, that's what we love to see. Okay, so here's bingo again. I'm going to skip this one. That's not a great look at it. Okay, so now we get into the last phase of it. Okay, once again, don't like screen, numbers aren't good. Don't like bubble, numbers aren't good. We're going to run inside zone weak. So in this situation, we're running to the right. We're going to read the end man on the line. Zach keeps it, and now we're in that last phase of it. Okay, I told you early on, if you keep it, you better be prepared to read the force player. That force player comes off late. We stay in our back pedal out here, stay flat, stay flat, stay flat. And then we're able to get that ball out in space right there. Easy money. But it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this thing. We practice this every single day for 10 minutes. So literally it's basic, it's bingo, it's burst. You're going to see burst here coming up in just a second. So I'll get into burst. Okay, so we've looked at 2 of them. Now we go into our third phase of it. The third is what we call burst, and we got this, I believe our head coach was at the Ohio High School Coaches Clinic, and I believe Neil Brown, who's now at West Virginia, and he was talking about the success they had running this at Troy. And so we said, well, this goes pretty well with what we already do with basic. The difference here is we're gonna formate into the boundary. So there's multiple advantages to this. On this situation, we ended up throwing the ball. We called it 17 times, and we threw the ball a lot more in this one. 11 times. We were 7 of 11. That's a pretty good number for us, especially when you have 2 drops and 1 penalty. We got to clean that up, but it's pretty good what we look at here. So once again, it's a 1-word call for us. Okay, we call burst. Receivers, tight ends, they know they're going to formate into the boundary. So in this situation, the ball's on the right hash. So we're formated into the boundary, and the gift is the quick screen. Do we have numbers? Do we have 3 over 2? Do they have a really soft corner? Do we feel like we can rip it out there and take the quick screen? Okay. Don't like it? Okay, so now the difference is we're going to run slant to the field. And you can create, especially in high school with wide hashes, like it's a little bit different than college, a little bit different. Okay, you can create a ton of space over here. And if you're really running the ball, a lot of times one of these safeties, he'll end up lined up over the football. Now, when you do this on tempo, we really like to do it on tempo because a lot of times if you formate to their boundary, okay, say the other team's on this side of the field over here, that free safety, he's closer to his sideline, getting the signal, trying to get his guys. He's talking to his guys. He doesn't always move all the way out wherever he, sometimes where he's supposed to be. So so you create single coverage. Other times we do this so we can create single coverage and be able to possibly take a shot. Okay, so if we can get the safety in here, we feel like we can put a fast guy out here and get a mismatch on the corner, we'll call this, and then we'll attach just a go route to it, and we'll take a shot on it. But anyway, going back to our normal thing here, we have the gift, we have the slant. Backer walks out, he's in the hole, don't really like it. Okay, now we're going to run zone. So we always run zone. In this situation, we run it to the field. Okay, so we're going to run the zone, inside zone to the field, and we're going to read the end man on the line. So nothing changes for the quarterback. He still goes through that progression all the way through. So get a look at it. I told you this is the second game of the year. Back we ran our RPO package a lot, and we look at it. Okay, they've got a 7-man box, so there's 7, 8, 9. This corner makes 10, and back here in the middle, standing 12, 13 yards deep on the hash is at number 11. So we know we have a 3-on-2 advantage here. Zach's just going to catch it, rip it, throw it out there. We get it out so quick. When we throw screen or we throw bubble, we do not have to, we feel like we do not have to check protection on this. If he does want to check protection, I'm fine with it. But if we want to get it out quick, especially if it's a secondary that's moving around, we can get it out there quick and not worry about checking door protection. Week 6 here, same thing. Rip it into the boundary. There you go. One thing I'm very proud of at Salle is our receivers are not afraid to block. This is our tight end. I told you the guy who's also a long snapper, just does a lot of things well. This young man right here, Jalen Norwood, was the first year in our program, and he just bought in, and he played with great effort all the time. So that's the look we're getting right there. Now, okay, this was in the playoffs. They're playing man. Okay, this backer right here was creeping out, and we had run this earlier. We knew we were going to get all kinds of space to the field because they were playing so much man coverage. And Jake right here he can get open whenever we feel like we need him to. We put him out here, and we said, go to work. Zach throws the slant very well, and we were able to – he's a shoestring away from going about 65 yards to the house here. But once again, Zach went through his progression, doesn't like the gift into the boundary, take the slant, let it rip, and we're good to go. So the guy who just got it, Jake Seibert, this is his younger brother right here. He'll be a senior for us next year, and he's going to be another good player for us. Just a very athletic family. So this goes back to what I was saying. This safety right here, okay, he's lined up basically over our tackle. We got all kinds of room out here. And we knew that we could isolate Ben on this corner one-on-one, create a throw. And like anything else, you want to throw a corner route, you want to throw a go route, whatever it is. It's an easy way to out of the same look, and it's kind of tendency proof. Now look at it right here. Okay, this corner, he's not too far off. Okay, the safety's kind of creeping over here. Okay, we probably could have thrown it into the boundary, but Zach wasn't sure. So we go back to the old deal of when in doubt, just call zone, and he keeps it. Once again, I talked about our receivers blocking. Okay, this is our quick screen receiver right here. He sees that Zach has kept it. He's going to go get back in the mix. We're in great squared up position right here. And so we get them all blocked up and end up getting a 12-yard gain on something that, and if you notice, now not all of these are perfect, but we're not running anything uphill into bad looks because all these pre-snap RPOs, and that's one thing I didn't really talk much about. All this stuff is pre-snap, and we're going to dabble a little bit. We're going to dabble a little bit next year in some post-snap stuff, but all of our pre-snap things, I think, are very easy for a quarterback. Okay, so last one here. Last one is what we call Louisville. Like I said, I coached at a different school back in 13 through 16, and I actually got this from a clinic. Villanova had run this a lot, and they were very, very successful with it. And I just thought it was an easy thing to copy. I called it Louisville. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. We call it Louisville. So for us, we ran it 17 times, almost 8 yards of play. We didn't get any touchdowns out of it, but we were pretty balanced on it. Basically, this is what it looks like, okay? It's a 4-by-1 formations. When we call Louisville, everybody knows that we're going to go 4-by-1. So really, in all reality, if you take the tailback and you put him back here, all it is basic, okay? Everything's the same as far as formation goes. It's basic, but we're going to put the tailback out here in space. And we're going to run the tailback on the bubble, and then we're going to have 3 guys blocking for it, okay? As far as our progression of this thing goes, it's still the same. Nothing changes for the quarterback. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, but we're still going to look at, can we throw the hitch? Okay, now here's what is different. When we get the signal Louisville, the quarterback is he is going to tell the line right away that we need to be in an empty pass pro, because what we're hoping is we throw the ball, okay? If he gets to the end of his progression and he's going to run the ball, then he will check into a run. So the quarterback's got to think a little bit, but it just becomes second nature. So here we go. We've given him his empty protection. Number 1, can I throw hitch? Is this jack tucked in here? Is he going to bring pressure? Is he up on the edge? Is this corner soft? Can I throw hitch? If you can throw hitch, take it. Doesn't like it. Jack walks out. Okay, so we clean this off the board. Now his eyes come over here. Number 2, second read. Do we have numbers? Okay, and there's 2 ways that most teams that we have found, most teams cover this. They will leave the free safety in the middle of the field, and they will walk this Mike backer out to give us 4/4. Okay, so if they cover us up 4/4, that's not a good deal. But what it does give us is it gives us a very, very light box. So what we do is the only time the quarterback will run this thing is if he gets a 4 or a 5-man box. And we like to run power, just simple power here, pulling the backside guard. Our rule is this, and this is what our quarterback lives by. If it's an odd front, we're going to run power to the field. Okay, if it's an odd front, we're going to run power to the field, so we're going to pull the backside guard. If it's an even front, like we see right here, we're going to run power to the 3 technique. So wherever they put that 3 technique, he might be back on the backside. I don't know, but we're going to call power to the 3 technique. Now we get a really, really light box here. That's great. If we can get through there, which you're going to see on this next clip, quarterback's one-on-one with a free safety. So the quarterback just has to be able to, and he knows that week because we practiced it all week. Okay, this week we're going against odd. You get power, just call it to the field. This week we're going against even. Find a 3 technique, run power right at it. So this is week 3 right here. Goes through our progression. This corner's playing inside technique. And Zach feels like he can take the speed out to Jake. It doesn't always have to be hitch. It's whatever works for you guys. For us, against this technique, they just decided that they were going to run speed out. Shoot. So we're in our empty protection. Zach's going to rip it out there, and Jake makes a guy miss, and it's a 12-yard gain. Everybody else is still doing what they're doing. We're getting bubble down here to the bottom, okay? These guys have been told empty protection, so we're blocking, we're protecting the pass with our empty protection, and then we're going to run speed out up to the top. Same look here, okay? Same look. We feel like it's covered up here a little bit, but we end up taking the, I think the hitch, hit the wrong button. So here we go. We're going to look up to the top. Quarterback goes through his progression, speed out, take it. Now this is a third and 3 call for us. Okay, kind of get the best of both worlds here. So everything we're trying to call something that we have multiple options to run it. Zach goes through his progression and speed out, take it, rip it, good. We're protected. Quarterback's clean. I would like to see the line be a little bit more solid than that. I think they're giving too much ground, especially on a lot of these quick game stuff. So now this is in the state semifinals here against Toledo Central Catholic, a really good team. They were well coached. They had some dudes that they felt like they could cover us up here. So they press up on us. Remember, it's got to be guaranteed yards to be able to take the gift. We look at it. Zach doesn't like it, but then he looks down here, and I'm about jumping out of the press box, saying, "Throw the bubble, throw the bubble, throw the bubble." And sure enough, Zach goes through his progression. Here we go. We missed a block here on the edge. If we don't miss this block, this thing might be gone. Maybe. I don't know. But like I said, we're very fortunate to have good players, and Cam Porter here is just a fine young man, and he's going to do big things at Northwestern, and you throw the ball to him out in space, and he can make things happen. Got to be a little bit better out in space blocking, but we'll get there. This is back in week 5. We probably could have thrown, if I never second guess Zach unless he really, really screws it up. But we probably could have thrown Hitch in here into the boundary. I mean, if you watch the end of the play at the break point, I think he probably could have thrown the hitch, but he knew that getting the ball into this young man's hands right here, Jabron Payne, you get the ball in his hands, that he can make some things happen. Now he throws the ball behind him, and Jabron makes a one-handed catch, thank goodness. But we had numbers. It was 4-on-3, and we were able to make it work here. Now, I talked earlier about how do teams cover up your four receivers. For us, what we see is these linebackers walk out of the box. And so in this situation, what we saw is that they covered down with the safety. So the safety was covering number 3. The backer walked out, was covering number 4. They are playing an odd front here. So Zach's going to run it. He's going to run it to the field. So he runs, he calls power here to the left. And then he ends up one-on-one with the free safety, which is what we want. So we get just enough of a piece of this linebacker, just enough of him, that we're able to miss that block there. And Zach, this is the first drive of the season right here. So this is a heck of a way to get us going. But for us, it's hitch up the top, bubble to the field, and then power right up the gut. Next play, we threw I think we completed a fade and got us down to the 1st and goal. So once again, we go through it here. I think this might be the last play. Hitch, do we like it? Nope. Okay. Out here, do we like it? Not necessarily, because this backer's kind of walking out. It gives us a very, very light box. He's kind of halfway there. You'll notice that our tailback does not run bubble on this. Once he heard that Zach called power, he just said, "I'm not going to run bubble. I'm going to go help out my brother here and go get in on the blocking." And so we split that thing right up the chute. If I had the end zone film, you'd see that the 3 technique was to the right. So we call power to the right, get a piece of him, and there we go. I think this is the last one. So in this one, if I'm thinking correctly, yes, this one, they had set the 3 technique to the boundary. So we end up running, we run power to the right here. Zach squirts through for about a 6-yard gain. Cam didn't hear him check it. So Cam, I think we may have told Cam, just go ahead and continue running the bubble to pull one of those safeties or one of those backers out with them if it looked like they were playing man-to-man. So Doug, there you go. That's our package that we've invested many hours into it. It's been good for us, everybody on our team. They have bought into it, and you got the right trigger guy back there making the decisions, and it's basically triple option football when you're just not pitching the ball.
Yep, modern day triple option. Love it, Coach. I got a couple questions here.
Yes, sir.
The speed out versus the hitch, is that based on alignment, or is that signaled? Is that game planned? How do you guys handle that?
Typically, all of the above. It is game plan. that team that we saw that was when we were running the speed out, they were actually from Massachusetts. They came down and played us, and kind of a unique story. They came down and played us, and then they went up to Notre Dame the next day, and they went to a Notre Dame game. But regardless, we had saw that they were playing that technique, and we said, "Hey guys, if they're going to turn their back to the quarterback and give you the speed out, we'll just take it." But that's really the only time we run it for the most part. And then what they'll do is we go in saying, "Hey, we're going to run hitch, but if you're going to run speed out, then it's just a side adjustment between the receiver and the quarterback. They have a signal they give each other."
Gotcha. Have you played with the departure timing of your bubble guy at all, or is he leaving on the snap every time?
He's leaving on the snap. Yeah, because here's the thing on that bubble, he's under the assumption that he's getting the ball, and so he's going to leave on the snap. Like I said, he's taking 3 hard steps, and he's ripping his head back around, and if the ball's there, the ball's there. If not, then he's going to basically start backpedaling and flatten out and just give himself a big target and stay flat down that original alignment, because the quarterback, he may have to spit that thing out late, and just keep backpedaling, under control, 50%, just be a big target, because if everything collapses on that quarterback, he may spit that thing out to you really late and then go do what you do.
Right. I've seen, and we do this too. If you're reading through the back, to have that, a lot of teams have that bubble guy leave after the mesh or during the mesh, so that way he's kind of hitting the alley instead of getting too wide.
I like it.
If you're teaching, percentages and things like that, going 75 or 50%, that serves that same purpose. So
yeah. Now, one thing I will tell you about that play, one thing we found as we got through later in the year, that outside backer, he was reading our tackle's hat, and we should have known that, and shame on us for not figuring that out. But when I said that we, if we're going to throw the hitch into the boundary, we'll check into a pass protection. Well, we were checking into a pass protection. We were throwing bubble. So that outside backer, he was sitting there reading our field tackle. And as soon as we got a high hat in the pass set, they were flying out to the bubble, and it was taking away our bubble. So we just said, screw it. We're just going to block that thing as zone, keep a low hard hat, rip down through the tackle up to the backer. And once we clean that up, teams couldn't get a gauge on what to do, whether to jump the bubble or whether to fold inside.
So what down and distance situations do you find yourself, kind of favoring these the 4-play packages?
For us, it's usually 1st and 10, 2nd and medium. I mean, gotcha. That's typically what we're going to call it. The other thing too is, like I said, we'll run this on tempo sometimes, and we like to do it, especially after a big gainer. After an explosive play, we kind of got them on their heels a little bit, because it's just one signal. So we're just giving, our signaler is given one signal, and everybody sees it. Everybody knows exactly where to line up. The quarterback, all he's got to do is make one quick read. If he needs to check it, he checks it quickly, and we go. And so for us, after an explosive play, I bet you if I went back and I really broke it down, the majority of these are probably 1st and 10 calls, if I had to guess.
That kind of leads me to my final question. I feel like there's been a shift in how teams use tempo, whereas 5 to 7 years ago it was the Oregon, or 10 years ago it was
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Where now guys are using it more as a weapon, and using it to flip the table for the offense. Why do you think, just personally, that shift has taken place in the football coaching community?
I think, unless you have such an explosive offense like Oregon did, where you're just going to ring up the scoreboard, I think head coaches have started to figure out that if you go, okay, let's play super fast, and then you go 3 and out and you ran, 42 seconds off the clock, you're really putting your defense in a bind. So I know what we have found is, we don't have, a red, yellow, and a green tempo, or a NASCAR, or we don't have that. We control tempo just by how fast we call the play. I mean, our head coach, Pat McLaughlin, calls the plays, and there's times when I'm up top, I'll say, hey, Pat, crank it up right now. They're out there walking around. Let's go. Like, we might be walking around, or the other team might be gassed. And sometimes we do it to wake ourselves up. Sometimes we do it just once we feel like, once we got them on their heels a little bit. But I think, it maybe, like you said, in the last 6-7 years, there's more analytics involved with it too. We're not we don't really use analytics all that much. I mean, not like some of these college teams do, but I think personally that they started to look at it and say, going back to kind of the NFL model, if you limit the number of snaps the defense has to take, you got a better chance of winning. So there's times, like I said, when we go, when it starts to get close, when we get the score up there a little bit and get a better margin, we'll slow things down and shorten the game. And there's other times though, we'll just crank it up and try to get that extra score right before half if we can.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you hopping on with us, Bret. Thanks for taking the time, man.
No problem, man. Thanks. And, if there's one thing I could leave everybody with, I was at a clinic back when I was a young coach and my kids were very, very young. And I've always told people this, a coach, he was from somewhere up in Columbus, Ohio. And he said this when he finished up, and it was coach your own kids. And I live by that, and I'm glad I did. But you may have a daughter who's playing soccer and you don't know a thing about soccer, but you can run a practice better than any parent over there on the sideline. So I was lucky enough to coach my daughter in 5th and 6th grade volleyball. I was lucky enough to coach my son in youth football and baseball and basketball and all that. But coach your kids, and mine are now in college, and you miss those days. They're great memories, and you miss them. So just, you know how to set up drills. You know how to set up cones. You may not know anything about soccer or basketball or lacrosse or anything like that, but you can set up drills and run practices.
Thanks, Bret.
You got